If torture disturbs you, skip this one. Seriously. 4 brutal and unforgiven acts of nuclear revenge. First, a true horrific life lesson. If torture disturbs you, skip this one. Seriously. Second, a cheater's life and dreams are ruined. 3. Brat threatens female co-worker with rape, then meets true vengeance. 4. Standing up to my workplace bully led to unforeseen consequences. Naturally, viewer discretion is advised. These revenge acts might be disturbing to snowflakes. The minor details of this story, place, time, will be kept vague for very obvious reasons. Note that this is my friend's story, who gave me permission to post. He swears it's real and it's frankly way too fucked up to not be, in my opinion. My grandfather fought in World War II. He was part of a platoon that freed one of the concentration camps. After the war, he ended up working for my country's intelligence agencies for many years. In what capacity, he never said, but I imagine it was some shady stuff. When we were in high school, my brother got caught groping one of the girls, but this was the 60s or 70s, and all he got was a slap on the wrist. He was 15, I was 14. He would brag about it to his friends. To be fair, I also didn't see what the problem was at the time. Well, my mom didn't like that and told Grandpa. Grandpa had my brother and I over for dinner that night, just the 3 of us. Before Grandpa did anything, he asked about if what he heard was true, but he asked it in such a jovial and almost proud way. My brother was all too proud of himself. Grandpa got out a hammer and 3 roofing nails. Then told us a story that I will never forget. So, in World War II, Grandpa was part of a platoon that liberated a camp. One of the head honchos at this camp was still there. By this time, they had all seen or heard of the camps, what was being done to people there. During a sweep of the camp, he came across this honcho's room. In this room was a child, badly beaten, naked, in chains, somewhat enlarged abdomen. It was obvious what had happened to her. My grandpa and his squad mates got a hold of the honcho, stripped him and tied him to a wooden chair. Grandpa then asked everyone else to leave, to not let anyone down the corridor no matter what was heard. He sat in front of this Nazi and stared at him for a good half hour, never said a word to him. Then, he took a hammer, and 3 long nails. Hammered 1 nail in each testicle and the 3rd through his penis and into the chair. He had to do this slowly and methodically to avoid making the testicles explode, or so he said. Grandpa left the room. Nazi left bound and gagged. Grandpa then barred the door from the outside. His squad did as they were told, never went in the room. They all left together. Grandpa doesn't know if the Nazi survived or was found. Grandpa told this story, not with glee or sorrow, but with a very cold tone. He then spoke to us and said something along the lines of, monsters attract other monsters, and tend to get what they deserve. Are you going to be monsters? My brother and I said no, of course, we were terrified. Grandpa then drove one of the nails into the table, as if to drive the point home. See that you don't. Now go home. Grandpa never mentioned the story again, nor did he ever speak in such a cold way to us again. It was as if he had never told us anything. My brother actually apologized to the girl in question. We both live pretty normal lives nowadays. Grandpa passed away some years back. We will never forget him. I work in the UK for a large technology company doing software support. I'm part of a team that is members all over the world. I've been in this job for around 10 years, and other than the major issues I've had with this guy, I truly enjoy my job. When I started with the company, I wouldn't say that I was green. I had about 7 years industry experience under my belt. I was definitely inexperienced with the company, but the job that I had been hired to do used technologies that I was more than comfortable with. The point I'm trying to convey here is that I wasn't completely oblivious to all of the applications supported by our company. Everyone in my team, around 30 of us, was very nice, and was very keen to help, except for Shane. Shane is probably what you'd term as the team guru, about 5 years from retirement. Part of the office furniture, metaphorically, as we are all home workers, he'd been with the company for nearly 40 years. Everyone labeled Shane as the only guy to go to when you were truly in a bind. When I was initially starting out, I did indeed find that Shane was highly knowledgeable and more often than not had the answers to whatever obscure questions you might have. Things were great, and our team ticked over nicely. I got to know the rest of the team well over time too, and my best friend was a woman named Mel. She was of a similar age and experience level to Shane, and in my opinion was just as knowledgeable as him. One day Mel and I were on a brief call chatting about a work issue, when we got to shooting the breeze for a while. We talked about ourselves and also the team. I'd said that I hadn't met anyone face to face yet, and that was when she told me she'd once met Shane in person a couple of years ago. They are both based in the US, I'm in the UK, and both got invited to a tech conference in New York. She told me that he has serious health issues due to his weight. He was around 450 pounds, and when he was home was often on oxygen and medication. His plan was to ride things out until he was able to take early retirement so that he didn't need to worry about paying for his medical insurance anymore. That sounded like a reasonable enough plan to me, and we were soon talking about something else. The issues started about 2 years into my tenure with the company. We started moving in a new direction with what applications we were going to be offering to customers, and towards that end we were trained in a bunch of new stuff. I saw this as a great opportunity and equalizer. If no one on our team had any experience with this new software, then I would be on equal footing with everyone. This went really well for me, and I put a lot of time and effort into learning as much as possible. Shane didn't show much interest in the new stuff. He still continued to spend most of his time with the legacy tools. In team meetings you could clearly tell he was getting pissed off that his status as a guru was gradually becoming more and more meaningless. This wasn't anything personal. We work in software. You have to adapt in order to remain competitive. As time went on, it was becoming clear to the team how much work I was putting in, and I was well on the way to becoming the go-to guy for the new software. During this time, Shane would start sniping at me for anything he could plausibly manage. For example, if I was late to a team meeting because a customer call overran, he'd make sure to interrupt whatever was being said to comment something like, "Oh look, Ordos Deluxe has bothered to grace us with his presence," even though he'd been guilty of the same in the past. Things like email chains too. Almost anything I sent out that included him and our boss on an email, he would reply with some unrelated complaint or observation, complete irrelevant to what was actually being discussed. One day Mel called me and asked me what my beef with Shane was. I truthfully told her that I had no beef at all with him, and he just seemed to have it in for me. She said that if she managed to find anything out she'd let me know. Things continued like this for a couple of years. I continued to be the go-to guy, and he continued to try and discredit me, and generally paint me in as bad a light as possible. One day we had a major incident. One that literally could have cost the company millions in SLA fines if it was not solved quickly. Our manager split us into teams to troubleshoot specific areas, and she paired me up with Shane. I wasn't happy about it, but whatever, I was a professional. We got on a call and started working through the issue. As our call progressed, it was becoming abundantly clear why he didn't like me. He knew nothing about the new application. He hadn't done any work on it at all. Everything I asked him to check, he needed hand-holding, even for the most basic of tasks. Eventually I just shared my screen and said for him to watch me. I went into the guts of the system, through so many logs, explaining to him what I was doing the whole time. Eventually I found what the problem was with a recent patch we had installed. At this point he dropped from the call. I didn't think anything of this at the time. We use Skype for business, and it can be flaky, so I just continued what I was doing. Our process was not to roll back any changes until it had been approved by the senior manager. As I was the one responsible for deploying/rolling back patches, made some notes about what we needed to do, and then rejoined the main call. I wasn't worried at all, because bad patches happened every so often, they just didn't usually have this level of impact. As soon as I did, I got absolutely destroyed by the incident manager. Apparently Shane had returned to the group call, and informed everyone present that the outage was caused by an error that I had made in the deployment process, and that Shane had told me what the correct fix was, and I had refused to implement it then and there. I was furious. He had accurately told them the cause of the problem because it was me who literally demonstrated to him how to find it. I had even foolishly mentioned to him what I thought would fix the problem. Because of how long he'd been with the company compared to me, only our immediate team knew the truth about who was really the better skilled person in this situation. His historical reputation still carried a lot of weight with people who didn't work day to day with him. Because this incident was so major, over 100 people were on this call, several of them 2 or 3 levels of management above our team. He made me out to be a reckless, incompetent idiot, and he was believed. Despite my manager's protestations, I was disciplined and given a verbal warning. He meanwhile was congratulated for steering the company away from a potential disaster and given a commendation. I was so angry, and a while later Mel gave me a call. Apparently Shane had been bragging to her about putting that smart-ass punk in his place. She was shocked, and asked him what he was talking about. His real beef was that he thought I had disrespected him by trying to take over his role as go-to guy for the new software. That wasn't my intention at all. I didn't see it as my fault that he was too damn lazy to do the work again. I lamented with Mel that she should have recorded the call. She laughed and said that Skype shows when you're recording a call and he'd never have spilled his guts while being recorded. I immediately had a brainwave. I decided that I would confront Shane one-on-one. I pinged him on Skype and said that I wanted to talk. He responded with a smiley and just said sure. I called him and let him know that I was recording this call. I went right for it, and accused him of lying about the major incident, and said that it seemed like he had a major beef with me. As expected, he lied, and said that he was sorry that I felt like I had to react this way. He said that he would need to talk to our boss about it. I said wait 1 second, and turned off the Skype recorder. I then said that Skype isn't recording, and that he knew exactly what he had done. His mask slipped at this point, and he said that he was perfectly in his rights to put me in my place. He said that you need to respect the longer-serving people in jobs like this, and that he would do it again in a heartbeat. I didn't hold back. I called him a dinosaur, who refused to move with the times, and wanted to coast out his days here without doing any work. He said that he was a couple of years away from retirement, and he'd be damned if he was going to bust his ass for some shiny new software. I said to him, speaking of new software, has he heard of OBS? Of course he hadn't, and I suggested he Google it. I then hung up on him. Not long after, the messages started. He was begging me not to use the secret recording that I had taken. He said that if he gets fired he will lose his retirement package and his medical benefits. I told him to go fuck himself, and that he should have considered that before trying to get me fired. I passed all of this on to the relevant channels before really giving it any thought. Things set in motion, and sure enough a few weeks later after a company investigation, he was fired. I heard from Mel that he had asked to take early retirement so as to keep his benefits, but this was apparently rejected. It all came out later that apparently he had significant debts, and that he was counting on his retirement package to keep him financially afloat. With no job, and no package, he had no money to pay for the medical treatment which he badly needed. He was in no state to get himself a new job, and his skills had stagnated so badly that he couldn't even get a new job online. Mel told me that he died about 6 months after this whole incident due to his ongoing health issues. I felt conflicted about this for a while. Sharing that recording obviously contributed to his death, but I don't know how bad I feel about it. I am a young guy trying to build my career, and he actively tried to destroy me. I should maybe have held off when he pleaded for me not to reveal the truth, but he was old enough and wise enough to not engage in the childish games he played. If I'd known he'd be dead as a result of this, I'd maybe have done things differently. It's one that stays with me, that's for sure. I'm still at the company, and I can tell you all that I will never treat a new employee the way he treated me. So maybe the breaking of that cycle is the positive to come out of all this. Ronnie was a serial cheater throughout high school, but he was more than that. He was manipulative. He would blow through relationships, typically 4 at a time. They would only ever last a week to a couple months before the girls would catch him cheating. He'd proceed to leak their nudes or spill their secrets and move on to a new demographic of women. He was charismatic and scapegoated his problems onto his dying father. It didn't matter anyhow. He would destroy the victim's reputation until they weren't trusted, anyways. Despite this, I was in love. I was his side piece through it all. Morally, I knew it was wrong, but I had never been in love before. Besides, he wasn't lying to me like the other girls. He was honest about the fact he was cheating. I was special. I stuck it out. 2 years later and he's fallen in love with me, too. Or so I thought. He vowed to give up cheating, even gave up porn just to have me love him back. I accepted it. We planned to marry. He was always so smart about his manipulation. When friends blocked me randomly, or called me abusive, I thought it was just a misunderstanding. When people began to become aware of deep, personal secrets, I thought maybe I had slipped up during a conversation. No one ever told me Ronnie had called me abusive, a cheater or a liar. I never knew he accused me of being the things he secretly was. He would insult me late at night, before bed, and then claim he didn't remember in the morning. He would slip sly comments into our talks, just enough to make me doubt myself but never question him. He was a master at gaslighting until I hated myself and only wanted to please him. I was head over heels in love, despite all of it. He would casually slap me, never when I was upset, but when I said things he didn't like. He would slap me across the face and I would be too shocked to speak. He followed it up by laughing and playing it off as okay to do, or a joke, so I wouldn't fight back. If I expressed it was wrong or told anyone, he said I was misunderstanding a playful tap. Halfway through our relationship, I followed work to another state and maintained a long-distance relationship with him. It was my dream. I wanted so badly to stay. But after 8 months, I gave up my home, my pets and my job to move 1,000 miles across the country to live with him again. I had literally nothing and was absolutely penniless. 3 months after this, I caught him cheating. He had asked a girl on a date via an alt Twitter account. I was hurt, but ultimately it wasn't so bad, so I forgave him. The seed of doubt was already planted, however. 2 months later, I snooped through his phone and noticed he had several Reddit accounts saved to Chrome. I vaguely recalled he used Reddit to view porn before, and I got a bad feeling in my stomach. I began guessing his common email/password combos. I got 5 hits total. They were more than I expected. I figured maybe he was lying about not watching porn, which is not a big deal to me, but for 6 months he had been using these accounts to cheat on me using hookup and porn subreddits. I confronted him. He screamed, telling me he had already apologized to me for cheating a few months ago and I needed to quit making him sad. That he had already said sorry and I wasn't going to get anything else. He explained that he had continued to cheat because he feared I would leave and he wanted a second option. I spent a week and a half sobbing. I had nothing but this man, and I had never been good enough for him. I was destroyed. He screamed at me nearly every day, telling me my crying was annoying, that my depression made him uncomfortable. Telling my friends I was guilt-tripping him over something that didn't happen. Finally I snapped. I had wasted all of my high school and early adult years with a man who did nothing but walk on me. I went back to Reddit and counted every person he had flirted with or exchanged messages with. I began to voice record every conversation. Screenshot every text. Next I downloaded Tinder and Bumble. For every girl he cheated on me with, I had sexy time with a guy behind his back. When we went out with friends, I began to act more and more sad and slowly dropped in conversation how Ronnie had been yelling at me the night before and that it had upset me. I began to vent to his friends and show them every screenshot. Then I emailed his mother, his grandparents and his work voice recordings of him screaming at me. I asked his boss if his company supported domestic violence. I cried to his mother and she held me as I vented my frustrations, explaining how she had been cheated on by Ronnie's father. Ronnie began to scapegoat again. He told me he was sick in the head and his depression was causing him to act like that. I knew he was attempting to gaslight me. When we were young, I was so in love with him that I saved almost every photo and text he had sent me to a OneDrive. I found all the times he had admitted to leaking nudes, cheating and ruining girls' lives. I got in contact with each of the girls, making one big group chat and sending them every bit of evidence I could find. These were then posted all over Facebook. He had dreams of getting into politics. I joined every political group in our area and pretended to be interested in joining. I befriended the members and casually dropped into conversation how Ronnie had cheated on me and verbally abused me and ruined other people's lives. They would inquire more. I would vent and show them the mountain of evidence I had collected. Ronnie was still unaware I had done it. He spent the night screaming and crying about how no one liked him and he wasn't sure why. He had lost his job. His friends and family wouldn't speak to him. He was being publicly shamed on social media and his political group had ousted him. I finally dropped it onto him that I had done it and I was leaving. During all this, I had secretly removed what little money I had from his bank account and contacted distant relatives and asked for a place to stay. I was leaving. He didn't have anything left to abuse or manipulate. I don't have a solid ending for this. I just wanted to say, fuck you, Ronnie. I wasted my youth being abused and I won't stand for it anymore. I'm a security guard. I worked as some sort of supervisor. Man in the middle that coordinates security, cleaning, maintenance, gardeners and so on. My workplace is to sit in a 60 square meter room, at my desk. Room itself had a smell was a mix between nicotine, sweat, oil, coffee, food and dead possum. The building itself belonged once to the government but was sold to a private company. Security systems were wow. Access with key cards, automatic doors, color cameras and real fancy stuff. My desk and computer was the brain, the living heart for that building. I could do everything just with one mouse click. Lock a door? Click. Turn on lights? Click. Check my camera zoom and rotate? Click. You would need a special visitor's pass, fill out some forms, including your ID. Security at the front desk would grab the telephone, ask if everything was okay and the visitor could be sent up. There were a lot of rules. They would call me so I would reserve one of the elevators for a special ride. Operating the elevator from my computer. Lots of floors were private. Everyone understood the rules except for this special delivery guy, early 20s student, a brat with a stick in his butt cheeks. He thinks he is entitled and we have to bow for his highness. Rude douchebag, made a huge fuss every morning. We should know him, let him pass, all costs his time. Yada yada. He parked his van literally everywhere. He was blocking entrances, driveway and parking spots. He even blocked the parking lot of the CEO of the building. And who got the shitstorm? Me, because I was the security guard in charge. One of my coworkers was a cute little girl. In the early 30s. Low self-esteem. The typical wallflower, shy but a very kind heart. The typical, how can I help you, girl? She always tries to help others out or find a specific solution. She was the perfect lady for customer care. But douche literally ripped her tiny lovely soul apart one morning. It needed two of our maintenance guys and the other desk person to separate him from the girl's desk. She came down to my office totally devastated and crying. She wanted to quit her job immediately. He really had broken her into half. I tried to calm her down, grabbed her a fresh coffee. I promised to put her on a different shift so she would not meet him in the morning. She agreed. She was the power horse for the front desk. I informed our manager about that guy and got just a shrug. Since we were security, we should handle this by ourselves. I told little lady she could take the rest of the shift off, and send her home. Later the two maintenance guys came for a coffee break. They told me all the nasty things the brat said to her. One of the quotes they heard, was that this douchebag would follow my coworker home and rape her, when her shift was over, so she would learn how to serve real men. I was shocked. I started to question the other maintenance guys and facility personnel about this guy. And hell yeah, nearly everyone had problems with him. He even get caught pissing outside a side entrance or spitting on the floor. My shift was over but I stayed longer. That was something personal. I remembered clearly my manager said, we security should handle this alone. Next night I spend most of my time digging through old cam footage just to prove that pissing, littering and if all the stuff was true. For sure it was. It's not that I didn't believe them or they would lie to me, but maybe they just exaggerated the stories a bit. Nope, I even caught him on cam tagging one of the walls with a marker. Weekend was coming and I informed the maintenance guy that I need elevator 3 on Monday for a special task and it would not be available from 7 to 10 a.m. I then scheduled some routine work at the security system so no logs or cam recordings could be made. Maintenance guy wasn't happy at first, because this would mean some trouble with our daily business. He asked if it could be done in the late afternoon when most offices were closed and everything was quiet. I told him, nope, that's not the time when douchebag would arrive. Maintenance guy's face turned into the biggest smile ever. He said, "You bloody bastard, you filthy son of a bee. You want to trap this guy?" Then he laughs out loud. I gave the best innocent look. I think we might have a failure with lift 3 early on Monday. Then maintenance guy went from funny to dead serious, promised me that we get his ass too. Great. Maintenance crew was fully in. I told my day shift coworker that I have a doctor's appointment and would stay 2 hours longer on Monday. It would be very comfortable to stay longer so I don't need to go back home and go straight to the doctor right after my shift. Mr. Day Shift was happy. Monday. Douchebag parked right in front of the main entrance. That's a no loading and no parking zone. He went to the counter and made the same fuss. Cussing, swearing, and all the animal behavior. Front desk informs me and I send elevator 3 to the lobby. Everything went fine, as usual. He went into the cabin and the elevator went up. Then, when the cabin was around floor 8, my hand was on the mouse and I made a single click. Elevator 3 was cut from the main power. It stopped immediately. Normal lights went off and emergency lighting went on. Douche was frightened. He pressed the alarm button like it was a button masher for a console. Nothing, no alarm bell, no call. The intercom stayed silent for him. He then pressed all the buttons, like a secretary typing memos. Click, chem elevator 3 enlarge. I took a sip from my coffee mug and enjoyed my little pet. Now he thinks he is clever, takes out his mobile and tries to ring someone. Oh, you little piece of doo-doo. You can't get a signal or call anyone in this elevator. Lift 3 was special. It is used and designed as special rescue elevator for emergency services and can withstand a huge building fire. Maybe an atomic blast. Reinforced concrete. Part of the main support structure that holds the entire building. Good luck getting a signal in this concrete sarcophagus. I took my phone and called maintenance guy. He instantly asked if I got him. My only answer was yes. Took a few minutes and my office filled up with 8 facility workers. They all wanted to enjoy the show. I even wanted to laugh out loud but I kept it serious and formal like every manager would do. I grabbed the phone and ring the elevator intercom. Then I switched to an unsympathetic voice, "Excuse me, sir? Did you press the alarm button?" He starts to freak out. That he is trapped for hours. Wasn't even 10 minutes. I informed him in a monotonous voice that we have some issues. Wouldn't be so long. 5 to 10 minutes, maintenance is on its way to rescue him. I spoke clearly out that his life is not in danger, but I said this with a very uncomfortable undertone. Then I hung up. This makes douche sweating bullets. He bangs on the doors, presses all the buttons. He even tried to open the doors by hand. Then I turned around, see all guys laughing. Literally pissing in their pants. After 5 minutes, I grabbed the phone and ring the intercom a second time. Douche angry, scared and he looks claustrophobic. Screaming for me to let him out and throwing racist insults at me. I then told him to calm down and I needed his help to get information. Brat calms down, shocked like a deer in a headlight. He stuttered asking what I needed. I then asked him to touch the walls, to check if they were warm to the touch. He touches all 4 walls. Confused he confirmed and yelled away from the phone that lift 3 was also burning. I screamed, the fire spreads quickly. One person in the cabin. And smashed the phone back with a loud bang. Deuce was rotting in the cabin. He feared for his life. He even pissed himself. Maintenance guys grabbed some tools. I switched the main power back online and got Douche down to the basement. The suddenly moving elevator scared the last bit out of this guy. He believed that his life is over and he must be dying. I grabbed my black gloves, took my flashlight with me. Running to catch up when the elevator reaches our level. I was there, just in time. 2 to 3 seconds later and I would have missed it. Doors opened and he was welcomed by us. He was so confused, he had pissed all over his pants and the cabin floor. He instantly jumped out of the cabin right into my arms. Totally overstrained from what has happened. I pushed him away towards the wall and flat slapped him right in the face, to calm him down and focus him on the dialogue. I spoke with the deepest terrifying voice I could get. You threatened one of my female co-workers? Wanted to rape her? 8 maintenance workers with hammers, wrenches right behind me. Looking as brutal as possible. I point the shaft of my flashlight straight in his face. Ready to beat the doo-doo out of him if he makes a wrong move. Strange accidents could happen every time. A slip from the stairs, you accidentally break your neck. Faulty elevator doors and you fell into the shaft, unhealthy accidents with the garbage press and all nasty stuff. Look sunshine, we have enough of your bad attitude. This is your last friendly warning. If we ever see your ugly face again, shit gets nasty. He was stunned, couldn't realize the situation. He didn't say a word. Just sobbing and crying, somehow glad he was alive. He slipped from the wall to the ground like a wet towel and had a complete mental breakdown. We gave him a very friendly reminder that this happened only in his dreams and what happens in the basement, stays in the basement. If he ever filed a complaint, we knew his full name, his private address and then doo-doo would really hit the fan. We escorted him to the bathroom, so he could clean himself up a bit. At least dry his pissed pants with some paper towels. He promised us that he wouldn't do it again. He begged us to let him go. Maybe he thought we would drown him in the toilet? Toilet waterboarding sounded like fun. But no, he was defeated, he was done. His attitude was broken and he learned his lesson. Then he was escorted out to a side entrance, out of the building. Later one of the guys who escorted him out said that he got a nice juicy parking ticket as well. Double strike for the facility team. He came back the next day, heads down, tail between his legs. I asked the desk if there was any problem. Desk said that he acted strange. Co-workers at the desk thought he would make trouble like every day, but he was very polite and absolutely friendly. I would say, mission accomplished. The next few weeks were normal, then a new delivery guy showed up. Never asked what happened, but the new guy was cool from the first day. Only downer of this incident was the massive paperwork for all of the missing security logs. Missing camera footage, and I got a formal warning from the managers that I should never schedule maintenance work for security equipment in the morning hours again. My manager told me that we need the security equipment especially during rush hours. He stopped his monologue and dismissed me. I was on my way out, wanted to shut his door. He then threw a sentence in my back with a laughing undertone. We don't want any tragic accidents. As I closed his door I heard him laughing sarcastically. He knew what happened. Little lady quit a few months after this incident. We never told her what really happened, but she couldn't handle the stress that this douche has caused to her. She now works as a shop assistant in a woman's clothing store. Me? Something changed as well. I got the new nickname, Lift Boy. It spread faster than a wildfire. Most don't know the real story and many laugh about this, but the core staff would say this with some kind of respect. P.S. Yeah, I knew that I crossed the line. 10 out of 10 would do it again. Thank you for watching Royal A.I. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive future episodes. Share your experience in the comments, or tell us what you think of these stories.